Hello and welcome to the LCS Dome, powered by Alienware, where we are cruising into the marquee matchup of the weekend as TSM will try to deliver Cloud9 their first loss of the split. They were able to do it last split. Let's see if they can do it again, right? I'm here with the boys, Mark Prowley and Crumbs, the guy in the center there.
Crumbs.
He's a prophet. Yeah, he's Crumbs.
I'm one of the boys.
He's one of the boys. You made him a friend. A reminder that drops have been enabled for the LCS this weekend. That means when in-game events play out, you'll get rewards and collectibles. Just go to watch.lolesports.com with your League of Legends account and opt into receiving rewards. When a drop is triggered, you'll get an on-screen notification and you'll receive the rewards in client. Now you've got a chance at Hextech Chess, Clash tickets, and more. So sign up now. You don't want to miss it. For more info, check out the article on lolesports.com. With that out of the way, let's pull up the standings. Not much has changed with yesterday's matches. Dignitas had quite the upset, while 100 Thieves did the same versus FlyQuest. But they'll need to be, or rather do more to see changes in the standings.
I mean, even though the changes weren't big, the outcomes were very surprising, I think, to everyone. Dignitas winning, I didn't think that was going to happen at all after Immortals had such a close previous week in Week 4.
I thought they looked like one of the better teams against C9 last week, but with how bad the previous game they had against 100 Thieves, I was not sure about this roster. But despite Immortals playing poorly, Dick just crushed it. They were super clean here, and now suddenly I think we actually have a real dark horse in the race because they were not going to stand around for long without a single win, and now they can just be a real big upset to the rest of the teams because clearly not even FlyQuest is safe in second.
I mean, I gotta say, it might have been our fault for putting so many eggs in like look how close it was basket last week, because they did go 0-2 last week. But I think the eggs in the wrong basket goes to FlyQuest here, where we're really hyped at them being second team, but 100 Thieves just completely smashed them. They played an early game composition. Contracts got off the ground on Nidalee with the 2 early kills, and then Someday showed up big with his Jace, and then Poom was actually really instrumental in their win, getting those flanks on set. Like, overall, 100 Thieves picked a scary comp to play, high execution, and they executed it well.
And I would say, we don't know who's the second best team in NA still. We're still trying to figure that out, but at least people are slowly dropping out of the race. We had CLG drop out a week or two ago. Then FlyQuest dropped out after I've been propping them up for way too long. I'm off that boat. EG's barely hanging on, and it's becoming between TL and TSM, it feels like. Maybe EG can reinsert themselves.
Yeah, TSM. A primer for today's matchup between Cloud9 and TSM was yesterday's show match, the classic show match between the old rosters of Cloud9 and TSM. And in true C9 fashion, they came in and swept up.
Yeah, I had to kill Dyrus to start it. Yeah. Start with the memes, follow through.
I mean, I even said on the desk, he's like, we're going to kill Dyrus for first blood just to keep the meme alive. I think they did a good job because it definitely felt like a normal TSM game when I see Dyrus on an island and he's like 0-2.
Actually, I think the biggest surprise was the fact that Balls still was playing and had like a challenger hidden account that that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, Silas was good because at first I was like, oh, they banned Rumble. This guy was MIA on our rankings, so this is going to be a stomp. Like, Silas is not, a first-time champion. You probably have to play him a few times, but he dominated top lane.
Yeah, I had a fun time. I was just a viewer last night, so I was listening to you all on the desk trying to figure out exactly where balls would land. But then Kobe did have a bit of that insider knowledge. So once we got to the cast, he was the one who called it out. Ooh, I've heard he's had a secret account. And then things got real exciting. But with another chapter added to the Cloud9 and TSM rivalry, I wanted to look back in time, open up the time capsule, which is deeply buried in the ruins of the previous LCS studio back in 2013 when Cloud9 first joined the league. So let's open that capsule up and let's see what we got. What we did is we went back to 2013 Summer Week 5, the exact point we're in now. And here it is. The TSM chant was invented. Bjergsen wasn't even in North America yet. He was smashing kids on the Copenhagen Wolves over in Europe at the time.
Yeah, Deficio was also on Copenhagen Wolves. It was a wild time back in 2013. Also, C9 had to relegate a team to get in. This was back when we had promotions and relegations, so they had to knock someone out of the LCS to get their spot. I just can't remember who it was.
Yeah, they dominated that team. I wouldn't want to be a part of that piece of history.
Right?
So I'm not on this.
But what about Freak, man? Getting out of his basement, I think that's a big milestone for any individual. I think that's the overlooked one.
That was a very big step for Freak there. Granted, we're all back home at the remote broadcasting now, but taking a look at some of the more important statistics, I think, from that time, a snapshot in history, Week 5. The player with the highest KDA at that time in Summer Split was Meteos, 10.9, on his way to an even better KDA with the rest of the split.
On the way to the
Oh, go ahead.
12.7 superstar KDA. This was week 5, so it's not quite there yet, but he got there.
Yeah, ManCloud up to 89 kills at the time, and Chris being the death leader up here in the top lane. An old name that maybe only some of you will remember. The newest champion at the time was Aatrox, and for a lot of you out there, you may not even know that about Aatrox's former form, his release form.
He was a jungler for the most part. His abilities cost health, which stacked up his attack speed. It was a wild champ.
I thought he was cool.
It was like a percentage of his health too, so it was really weird that you're just like attacking yourself when you're fighting people. It was an interesting idea, but he obviously got reworked because it just did not work at all.
Yeah, got reworked and got a lot stronger, a lot more play, it seems, as a result. Here are some of the highest presence champions at the time in Week 5. Some of those you see here still often here today. TF, even Jace has popped up occasionally, but I think there are some interesting differences in where they're being played.
It's interesting to me that Jace has been around for this long, despite NA's inability to pilot him to relative success. Like we've been trying for quite some time to make him work, and then the win that shows up is someday. That's not even NA Jace.
That's true.
Yeah. But see, this was mid Jace, where it's like you didn't have to stomp lane because you just were. If you landed any shock blasts on the weak mages at that time, you just kill them. But I think my favorite on the list is Twisted Fate. This is when he had a global ultimate, so you could base, and while you're in base and walking to lane, you just tell your team, hey guys, if anyone fights, I'm there.
Yeah, it's incredible. A little shorter range on that now, still a semi-global ultimate. You saw there 35 champions have been released since summer 2013. To me, the more interesting stat there is the flip side. The fact that means there were 100+ champions in the game at the time the LCS was incepted. That's wild.
Yeah, they used to be releasing them, once every month was like the cadence back then. And, now that we've reached the slower speed, you're like, did we really need them?
We really did that, right? Exactly. That's what it is. It's like we really put that many champions out. That's, oh my goodness.
All the best.
Digging a hole. All right, players still active in the LCS who were active at that time. There are only 6 remaining active players who were active during summer 2013, and 1 analyst who was at the time an active player, and that would, of course, be Crumbs, because all LCS roads lead back to Crumbs.
I like how it doesn't say 1 analyst still analyzing. It has to go into, shouldn't it be 1 caster still casting? Like, what's going on there?
Hey, you do both,
you're
right?
So
we had
right. I do both. Like, I can't have both.
Cast.
Yeah, and probably would have been included if he hadn't been relegated, but he technically wasn't an LCS player at the time. So
it was by the best team in North America, so it's okay.
Everyone would have been relegated by C9. It's fair.
Yeah.
It's true. All right, well, let's look a little more closely at the historic rivalry and take a stroll down memory lane with Cloud9 and TSM. A little bit of table setting for today's matchup between those two squads. TSM and Cloud9 will take place in Game 2 of the day, but we start things off with Evil Geniuses versus the Golden Guardians. Later in the day, top laner Deus will make his debut on Counterlogic Gaming versus Team Liquid, all before our Game 4 where Dignitas will attempt to snag their second win of the season versus FlyQuest. To hear more about that Game 1, though, let's hand it over to the casters for EG versus GG, Azalin Freak.
Thank you very much, Dash. And yes, this is going to be an interesting game here in Game 1 of the day because it's 2 teams who are going through some level of growing pains, especially around the draft in this one. Now, first, let's talk about Golden Guardians here because it feels like this team feels a bit lost when they aren't playing split push.
Yeah, exactly. They started off this season, trying to run these very heavy poke style compositions, largely based around closers in Italy. It didn't really work out. Then they kind of rediscovered themselves a bit, and they started finding something that did work. It was based around globals and semi-globals and playing side lanes, things like Tom Kench, like TF, like Nocturne. It really started to work. But then TSM against Golden Guardians last week really kind of gave us, I think, a blueprint of how to peel apart this team a bit in draft. The bans on both Tom Kench and GP, and then the early pick on the TF. These were things that were denying so much of the comfort that Golden Guardians has really relied on. We saw Golden Guardians fall back to this double marksman style, shield them up, team fight composition, but they just didn't look comfortable doing it. They didn't really know how to play out the game like they couldn't with poke style compositions as well. So I am worried for them coming into today. Can people just imitate what TSM did to them in draft?
It's definitely possible. I want to talk about the EG side here as well, because Jizuke is my focus of attention. He has the most counter picks in mid lane of any team this split. In 6 of the 8 games, he picks his champion second. Highest in the league for mid laners. He is getting more counter picks than any other team. Problem is, his performance is nowhere close to what he was doing in spring.
Yeah, I mean, he has had some really good games still, to be fair, but he's had a couple of clunkers now, and they are starting to pile up a bit. A lot of us were kind of quick to forgive the Cassiding game because it's against Cloud9. You got to try something. Then there was this Karma game. It's like, well, we'll just put him back on carries. It'll be fine. Now there's the Kog'Maw game as well. And he has had 3 games where he's just flat out not executing on the picks. These are not bad picks. It's not that they can't work for the team. You have to be able to have these different varied playstyles, but at the end of the day, you need to perform on them. And Jizuke has not been able to do that in all 3 of those games. He was getting caught out. He was having low DPM. He was not looking comfortable on these champions. So EG really does have to rectify this, find a way to get back to their winning ways. And I think a big part of that is getting Jizuke on carries that he is comfortable on and can really perform on.
Well, of course, he definitely can. He's an outstanding player in his own right. That overall is what we're looking at here in Game 1. And so as we go to the break, got a special edition of This or That.
Hello and welcome to our special This or That edition of TSM versus Cloud9. The hype matchup is coming your way.
I'm so pumped. I can't wait rather to see what they have in store for us on these slides.
All right, let's get right into them. More dominant 2016 TSM or 2020 Cloud9?
2020 Cloud9. 2020 Cloud9. I know 2016 was best of 3s, and even across matches, they had an incredible win rate. But you didn't win in the fashion that Cloud9 wins. You didn't win with the level of dominance, speed, and execution of 2020 Spring Cloud9. I'm sorry, it's those guys.
Yeah, especially because they're using the term dominant, and we had so much about Spring about how dominant Cloud9 was in all of the victories. I kind of have to agree, even though this one has been a good debate that I've seen a lot on social media. A lot of good points for the old TSM, but C9 right now, just taking it. All right, let's go next slide. Who is better, peak Double Lift or peak Sven? I would even say OG Niels.
Yeah, this feels like an impossible question. Okay, I'm gonna go.
Sven got higher at international competitions.
That's what I was thinking. Niels was semifinals in Brussels. Oh my
I'm
God.
defaulting to performance at an international event, and so is why I would go with peak Sven / Niels.
It's a really good argument. I think I have to agree with you that if we take international competition to be the peak of competition, the better performer in that sense should receive the award. And both are decorated domestic players too. So it's not like one of them is failing in one area and not in another. So yeah, I'm gonna go peak Sven. It almost hurts me to say that though, because of the player that Double Lift is.
I really like I always remember Double Lift's All-Stars performance. And that would be maybe the only possible argument for me is like, oh, in the All-Star tournament, him, especially on the Ezreal, popping off as he did against the best players, the All-Stars. But also people take that a little bit more fun.
All right, they can both go to Worlds this year and prove it once and for all which one's better. All right.
Who would win? Team with Bjergsen in every role or team with Niski in every role? Ooh, who's the better player?
I was gonna say a team of 5 Niskis would be a team that is never in lane. They're always roaming to each other's lanes, right? So it's
it's really how well can they support each other. Whereas I feel like Bjergsen's would just be 5 dominant players. And so I might actually argue that a team with Bjergsen's in every role would be better, because you're basically just taking a guy who is individually top tier in each position, right? And I believe that Bjergsen could be like top 3 in any position if he dedicated the time. And so in that case, you don't need team players if all of your players are really that good.
Oh, this one is so hard because Nisqy plays a lot of different champions as well. We already talked about Bjergsen, trying any champion that pops up and mastering it very quickly. He's got junglers ready. He's been playing AP Nunu and Fiddlesticks.
Right, but Nisqy's got the Rumble. He'll take Rumble to the top lane. They can both play Syndra bot.
All right, since you went Bjergsen, I'll go Nisqy to balance it out, and we get a little balance on the show.
Fair enough.
All right, get some hype here for TSM Cloud9. Super excited to see this one pop off. After the break, we're gonna send you right back to Countdown, and they'll talk more.
Let's go.
Yo, Jensen.
All right, let's do it, lads.
Oh, they're going mid. They're going mid.
I'm watching. Look at I'm behind.
I'm up, bro.
You guys are 4v4.
Yes, ult. I can ult them all.
Support trade. Yeah, look.
Vlad, no flash. I'm going Vlad. Go for Vlad.
I'm on Jim.
I'm dead. You should back. Back.
I'm on Nar. I'm Jir.
Play on Peter.
I'm a Jir. Jin no flash. Turns around the play. Come in.
It's over. Jump.
TSM cement themselves as the most dominant organization in North American League of Legends. Go, guys. Go.
Cloud9 are very hungry to not only get revenge, but also differentiate this lineup from that classic Cloud9 lineup.
Check your ulti. Careful. I'm on Camille. I'm dead.
Back.
We can end the game back. Come on. We're faster, right? We're faster.
Get his ultimate on.
Okay, if you start the back, we win the game.
Okay.
He goes down in the critical fight.
Just end the intro. Just end the intro.
That's the game.
Coming up.
I lost the game solo. It's over. This game is so easy, dude. I'm for it, baby. Yeah. Jesus.
Failed once again. NA/LCS champions.
These teams have met time and time again. Some of the biggest moments in LCS history have been delivered by these two teams staring across each other on a stage. And welcome back to the LCS Countdown, where we've got TSM and C9 clashing in Game 2. And while most C9 fans might think of that roster that competed yesterday as the most iconic C9 roster, you've now got Licorice, who is the most senior member of the team, been that transitional player, and he's dominant.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that Sneaky and every single member is gone now, and Licorice is the only one who played with any of those guys. And ever since then, it's been this kind of slow churn of new talent. But Licorice has become a mainstay on the roster. He is first amongst all top laners with 21.9 CSD at 15. The next closest is Kumo at 3.1. It is insane how good Licorice is playing right now. If you need more stats, he's first in kills and assists at 15. He's first among DPM. It's kind of similar to Blabber in terms of the level of domination he has over the top lane right now. Can I also mention that he has a great champion pool playing the Wukong?
Yes, you
Licorice
can.
is absolutely dumpstering top lane this split.
I think what I find fascinating about him is that he's prioritizing his practice to be a lot about taking on those 1v1 custom games and getting his laning phase down versus going and grinding away in solo queue. And it's clearly showing, because those are the skills you get in that custom mode. Those CSing abilities are just exactly the product of his hard work.
Yeah, and we have to remember when Licorice started, he wasn't, the throw him on a tank because he's a rookie and let's grow him. Like, he started out playing Jace and Camille during a tank meta in the top lane. So when we first saw it, we were like, wow, you're giving a lot of responsibility to this rookie, but he performed well in the carry meta and then learned tanks after that and became such a prominent tank player and just one of the best top laners in NA. It was a pretty shocking start, too.
It quickly developed into one of the most unique top laners that we had in the league, but we can't focus on just that solo lane. We got to hop to the other one when we talk about Cloud9. Nisqy has been unsurprisingly dominant. We expected that to carry over, but what we're starting to see is Bjergsen come back to form and be unlocked a bit in this version of TSM.
Yeah, this is Bjergsen being dormant for most of spring and then finally waking up and seeing the sunshine. He's actually playing the way that we expect Bjergsen to play, which is he's doing great in lane and he's outplaying in team fights. And in their matches last week, he played TF and Azir. His TF game was obviously dominant. He was everywhere. His Azir game, Doublelift even shouted him out in an interview that he was basically 1v5 because the game was so messy. They needed a strong team fight to win, and Bjergsen was that team fighter.
But his counterpart, I think, is important for the very reason that his playstyle is trying to bring into the LCS the FPX style that won last year, always playing homage to Doinb, and I think that that's really important because Niski is the embodiment of that. He can only do that with a very strong jungler, and yeah, he doesn't have a lot of solo kills. He's got 0 of them, but yeah, he's got a very high KD, very high kill participation, and I think that that is why this player is so interesting to me because contrasted to Bjergsen, who's is that solo carry, when you're playing a lot more around your jungler in that mid 2v2 synergy, you can not only play to your own item power spikes, but you can utilize the junglers as well, which tend to be a lot earlier, resulting in more explosive games in the early to mid game, which is why C9 can just blow teams out of the water before they even get to hit their item spikes.
Yeah, Mark, what do you make of those two statistics, specifically the damage share and the solo kill differential between the two players? It almost looks like Bjergsen is doing everything Niski's doing, and maybe then some?
I think it's a little unfair because he's played so much Galio and these kinds of things on the side of Niski and Karmas and whatnot. Bjergsen does have his games where he does that, but he also branches out more often. So, yes, he'll play a Fiddlesticks roaming tank mid thing, which is great to see, but he'll also play greedier quote-unquote champions, and it's all about playstyle. You know, like Crumbs was highlighting, they have totally different playstyles, and Bjergsen has been stepping up more and more this split, but Niski is just expected to do different things.
And now it's right about this point where we'd normally move right along. We've hit the big matchups of this matchup between the two teams, but that's not the case when you're talking about Cloud9 and TSM, because as good as these solo lanes are, we haven't touched on the bot lane, which has two of the best Western bot laners in the history of the hemisphere facing off against each other.
It's almost like it's like hard to believe that this is also a part of this matchup. I mean, Sven versus Doublelift are all really important in their game, but even Sven admits that like sometimes it's hard for him to get involved with how dominant the top side of his map is being when he's on Ezreal pew-pewing in lane, just farming from distance and absorbing pressure. But that's not to say he's not playing well. He's actually playing incredibly well, and it's equally true for Doublelift.
It's a testament to the way the game is played right now, where the AD really needs a lot of time to be brought up to speed, and up until that point, he's really kind of being sitting fodder down there, and I think you can highlight it there with the deaths in particular. Doublelift leading the league in deaths at 18 as a marksman. Now you sit down there, you're getting dove constantly. If your early mid game is not that strong, you are the focal point because you're so easy to just pinpoint and continue to dive. But they can still play the Aphelios and surprise anybody with a 200-year champion and just get 12 kills in the game.
Now, both AD carries in the bot lane, filling their role for the teams, but perhaps being dragged along a little bit just because of the way the game has broken down. We'll see how much that game messes up with our analyst stock portfolios as we jump back into another buy period here in the LCS stock market. Let's take a look at the current prices, see how things fell. A reminder that each... Yeah, I know, it's a tough week for all of you, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But you can see there, the first column is the current prices of each of the teams. The column on the right-hand side is what they were back in Week 3, our last buy period. Red and green numbers represent the changes in prices for each of these teams. So no surprise that Cloud9 just continues to skyrocket. We got a couple teams looking to get above that 400 mark. So Mark, on that, I'm coming to you first. Talk to me through your portfolio. Already took a hit this week.
Yeah, me and Crumbs are both really feeling in our pockets. We saw the Immortals lineup go 1-3. We thought they looked better than their record. We go, oh yeah, let's buy them. They look like they have a decent schedule. We're already down like 300. I had 5,500, and I'm already down 250. I've been crushed just with that Dignitas loss, which I thought was a for sure win.
We got catfished by Immortals because we were looking at cheapest, right? Buy low, sell high. Immortals and Dig were right up there. But then the TF games from Dig, I was like, there's no way this team can get it together this quickly, whereas Immortals had those really close games, and then they were going to go up against Dig, which should have been another game that I thought they could have won. And then their strengths of schedule, they're not facing Cloud9. They're facing Golden Guardians and CLG, and TSM could be rocky, right? This team tends to go into Fiestas against some teams. I was counting on that. but with how they started today or yesterday, I just want to get out of here. Like, let's just wrap up this game, start the next one, and then we can just not purchase more of these stocks.
You're hoping
if we all fail, it will get bailed out, right?
Yeah, you guys are hoping. There it is.
Stimulus.
Yeah,
Where's
we'll
the
go ahead and
stimulus
we'll
check?
petition the LCS commissioner for a bailout. You guys are hoping for the 2-2 week, I think, at most. Probably. This means, though, I assume that you didn't index into Immortal, so you must be, sky high right now.
I mean, talking finances is a bit gauche, don't you think? I don't want to. Okay,
You don't know it?
Yeah, you messed up too.
I went into FlyQuest because I thought they could, beat 100 Thieves, but that was an upset yesterday, so I lost money so fast. But really, I thought FlyQuest had an easy road. Their only tough opponent was Cloud9, so I was like, okay, they can maybe get 3 wins, but now I'm just going to be happy with 2 wins.
Yeah, we thought that the strength of schedule for Dignitas looks scary. You could argue that it looks scarier for FlyQuest just because they already dropped one of their expected wins. They've got Dignitas here ahead of them, but then TSM and Cloud9 in a row. If they are lucky enough to take one of the games off of those top teams, it could still work out in your favor, though, probably.
They're supposed to be second place.
I'm so excited to watch that Dig game. After Dig has taken all my money, I want them to do the same to Prolly. I'm a huge Dig fan for the next game.
Oh my god.
There it is. You heard it here first. That's going to do it for us here on the State Farm Analyst Desk. Let's send it over to Freak and to Sale for game 1.